Hi there, welcome again. This is Nick Ramica from LiveTiles. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. I'm joined again by Jason Alessi, our Product Specialist. And today we are going to give you an overview and a demo of LiveTiles Intranet for Enterprise. So I'll hand over to you, Jace. Just give us the 30,000 foot view, and then I've got a number of questions I'd like to ask you about it, and we'll take the audience through the demo.
Yes, absolutely. Excited to run through this one. So LiveTiles Intranet Enterprise is our premium product offering in the Microsoft SharePoint Online space. Sitting on top of SharePoint Online, Enterprise provides a vast amount of vital add-ons in the form of features and functions, greatly expanding the capabilities of SharePoint Online, incorporating some important modules that are, very important to today's business and their employees to work smarter. LiveTiles Intranet Enterprise is deployed on top of SPO environments as an app with services running in Azure to support it. Enterprise will provide improved web parts, site designs, modules including news, governance, everywhere for teams. Some may know and some may not know. There's almost like a sub-product within LiveTiles Intranet Enterprise itself, which we'll touch on in this demonstration, which allows an element of the intranet to be now ported into Teams. We have compliance and a very thorough administration portal that allows for greater flexibility and control over the whole suite.
Great overview, Jace. So I am just now going to set the scene a little bit here. I am going to represent internal comms. I'm going to also represent HR and IT. Now, there are a number of stakeholders in an intranet deployment. It requires an intranet to do a lot more than it used to in the old days, where it was more just a repository. It needs to be far more dynamic. It needs to integrate. It needs to connect. It needs to cut across a lot of digital fragmentation and siloing. So there are 5 things I want to touch on with you today with the demo. So I absolutely want to know what it can do from a comms perspective. Governance, compliance, user experience, and speed, productivity, and value are really critical for me. And powerful admin tools. So, and when I say that, I mean giving those who are administrating the intranet powerful tools that are not complex, but also just gives them the ability to change things in an agile fashion without having to pull in the 3-ring circus to get it done. So those things are really, really important to me. So let me start with comms. Given there's so many options in the intranet space, and there's some great stuff in modern SharePoint Online right now. What Microsoft have done to evolve that is really impressive. But I still have a real issue right now with top-down comms, because I have a lot of the population in my organization sitting in various applications, where it might be Teams, it might be in Slack, there might be in other things that that keep them quite separate in the business, in their workflows. But in terms of top-down comms, and we saw this year with COVID-19, just how important and critical the ability for comms to cut through to all employees, no matter where they sit in the business. And we have a lot more eyes now on the comms department, making sure that those things, and this ties into compliance and things like that. So it needs to be quite sophisticated. So I want to ask you, what can you show me regarding LiveTiles Intranet for Enterprise around the comms module?
Sure, let's get into it. So as we jump into an intranet here, immediately you're met with, this is Enterprise. It doesn't look like your standard SharePoint intranet. It has been branded with capabilities built into the platform. So that speaks to the the UX and also speed to productivity as well, because we can design it in a way that suits the audience. But comms is the bloodline or the lifeline of an intranet. It's still where you're going to go to look for information, find content. It's still, some may argue that intranets are dead and gone. We're still vitally against that, and they've taken on a different shape in today's world. And comms is absolutely vital. I keep saying vital, but it is to an intranet. And we recognize that, and we've had this module now available for a while, and it's great because we keep building on it, keep expanding its feature set. It's called the notice board. And as you can see here, we've got it shown in card form. It is displayable through a web part in SharePoint. It has some great integration sets, so we can use it on pages. We can use it in the Everywhere panel. It can be present in Teams. There, we have integrations available with it, so we can actually use APIs or a webhook to pull information and push information from it, understanding that, you know, this information might need to be displayed elsewhere in other systems. So we want to keep that open, but ultimately it needs to be very easy to use and very easy to understand for the users. Here we have it shown using the card template, so we can actually, you know, change the way it displays for end users. We can have list view. You know, there's a very different ways we can show it. Card view enables us to show, you know, rich imagery, so we can incorporate nice imagery or videos with the news. Tons of metadata, so we know, you know, where it's coming from, who's published it, what's the date. We have a social element too. So if I actually just jump into the item and open it up, you know, we have everything that's relevant there. What channels they've been targeted for and where they've been written to. So it's not just your standard top down, I've published this, everyone has to read it. No matter who you are, I'm just going to jam it down your throat. It's not about that. It's about providing relevant information to the right people at the right time and letting them consume it in a way that suits them as well. So as you'll see here, we have the social element enabled on the notice board as well. So we can like the post, we can comment on it, we can start a sub conversation on that piece of news, which then talks about bottom up and kind of outwards. So it's not top, or the news may have come from top down, but it's expanding to a much more fruitful piece of information across the business. You can see here we can start to add imagery. So if we want to keep the conversation going, it's very easy to do so. And as you mentioned around administration, this is all configurable from the admin portal. You don't need to be a dev or a developer or, you know, a techo really to manage this. Once you kind of wrap your head around how notice board works and the settings, this could be managed from anyone within communications or HR, you know, whatever department runs your comms, they can definitely take control. So as an end user, this is really easy for me to consume. You'll see here, once I've read it, it kind of marks itself as read. I can then control the notice board web part in a way that I like. So I can search news. If it's old news that's dropped off my list, I can search it. I can mark all news as read, so I ensure that it drops off, but I can also configure the settings for the end user view for myself. So I can mark it to say, only show me unread items, ensuring that it stays decluttered. But we have channel subscriptions. So news is not just news for everyone now. It's news to the right people, to the right time. And we do that with channels and channel sets. And I'll explain channel sets in a moment. But you'll see here I've subscribed to a few channels basically just by clicking them. And some of those are grayed out because they're parent channels, and some might be grayed out because they're mandatory read channels, meaning that if someone posts news to that mandatory channel and that channel's mandatory for everybody, they'll see it. They have to see it. They have no option. And that could be something like all company announcements or alerts or outages or anything like that. There's also notifications on the back end of this. So users will be notified when something's been posted to a channel they are subscribed to. So it's, again, keeping people in the know and getting information to them quickly and efficiently, and not forcing them to have to go and find it, because often that just leads to, you know, more trouble. I didn't see the news. I didn't know this was happening. I wasn't alerted. That's what we're trying to avoid. Now, as an end user, I can consume it, as I said here on the page. I can consume it from the Everywhere panel. So if I jump in and I just click that open, again, I'm getting the same information. Now, I don't want to touch too much on the Everywhere panel because that will probably come up in later in the demo. But the Everywhere panel is something that kind of follows me around wherever I am. This omnipresent, it's always stuck to the side like a bookmarks bar, except the content's not static. And with news and comms within an intranet, we don't want static content. We want dynamic, we want it changing, and that's really easy for me to interact with. I don't need to keep going back to the homepage to consume that. I can be anywhere in the intranet, I can pull that open, and away I go. For contributors, for news owners, those comms owners, the same experience. I'm creating news from the same spot where I'm reading the news too. So all I need to do is add a new item or a new news item, whether it's news or video. I select my channel that I'm posting to. I can post to multiple channels if I like. So, let's just say post something to All Company and Australia, and we're going to post something related to Love Your Work. So I give my item a heading. And I can give it a summary. Summary is not required. I can give it a message. Latest announcement for Love Work. And I can give it a publishing image. Now we have publishing routines built into this as well. So I can give it a start date, ensuring that it's not posted straight away if I don't want it to post straight away. Great example, I'm posting them late on a Friday afternoon. No one's going to read it over the weekend. I can schedule it for a Monday morning, and I can ensure an end date as well. So having that drop off as soon as it is expired, ensuring that there's not stale news or announcements stuck on the notice board, just lingering there. So once I create that, it will write it to the notice board, and if I'm subscribed to that channel, it'll immediately pop up. Now you'll see here, as we just touched on before, subscriptions that I subscribe to will ensure the news that I'm seeing. So I posted that to All Company Australia. I'm not watching the All Company channel, but I am watching the Australia channel, so that still pops up for me. And we're ensuring that the same notice board on the home page is the same notice board that you receive in the Everywhere panel. So there is going to be no difference in news. I'm going to consume that same piece of information. So that's the notice board in a nutshell. It's really driving comms within our enterprise intranet space, and it's only getting bigger and better from here.
Great. Look, let's stay on this track for a little bit, Jace. So, it's great to see notice board and see how an end user can interact with that. One of the things that I also want to be mindful of is the ability to navigate things. And I'll give you an example of one of our customers who had the challenge of the former intranet having been structured in terms of its architecture according to the structure of the business. So unless you knew how the business was structured, and you knew how the architecture of the business and where different faculties sat and blah, 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 you wouldn't know how to navigate to a specific piece of information. And that they now have restructured the internet to be much more intuitive and making it so much easier to find things via search and things like that. I'm also mindful that, as you pointed out with the Everywhere panel, that more and more people are spending a lot more time sitting in the applications that are most pertinent to their workflows. They're not necessarily going to be sitting in SharePoint or things like that. So as you know, we have a saying at LiveTiles that it's not about getting people to adopt your intranet, it's about getting your intranet or your digital workplace to adopt the people and where they work. So tell me about navigation. How is this product going to help me make that user experience very streamlined? How are we going to get information to them quickly, no matter where they're working?
Yeah, that's a great point. If you don't have that good user experience, your employees or your users just won't use it, no matter how good the content is inside of it. If it's hard to navigate, if it's hard to find things, it just won't be adopted, and they'll find other ways of working. And that's usually how bad habits, spawned in a business, because it's just it's not intuitive for them, and they just won't use it. So we try to do that really effectively. And we don't want to do it one way. We want to provide users many ways to get to what they want. And everyone loves choice because they can develop the easiest way for themselves to complete the work that they need to get done. So I'm going to start with the mega menu. Now, the mega menu is something that just about everyone wants and needs in an intranet these days. Because when you're going to look for something, the first place I would look is probably in the menu or some sort of navigation. And if I can't find it in there, then I would probably go to search. So being able to provide a rich mega menu builder, which is what we have in the administration, allows organizations to structure that menu or that navigation in a way that suits them. And as you see here, we have an image in ours. We have colors. We can have videos, expanded its functionality, and we can make it dynamic and intuitive. And we can also personalize and secure it as well. So just as important as having a navigation is having it personalized and secured, so it's not so static and it's just, this is the structure. If you don't like it, deal with it. Because someone, inevitably, a large group of users probably won't find that navigation too effective or too relevant to them. Because when you're designing navigation, you need to be inclusive of everyone and need to understand how all these different departments and users really use the intranet. So with personalization, we can actually target groups of users and have the content change within that menu for who you are or based on metadata that's in your profile to allow you to work easier and have a more refined navigation for you. We can also secure it. So if there are links in that menu that we want hidden to certain groups or only made available to certain groups, we can do that as well through targeting as well. So the ability to have a personalized secure mega menu or navigation is just as important as the content that we're putting in there. Now, again, we mentioned before, you don't need to be a developer or an engineer or anything like that to actually manage this. This is all done through a UI, through drag and drop, and we give you the option to add things like headings, links, text, imagery. You can color it through the design and branding module, something else we'll touch on later on when we just briefly go through the administration. But you add all this in with personalization, and I hit this intranet, and I see this navigation, and I go, "This is everything that I need." And you might hit it, Nick, and you might go and see something completely different. Go, "This is perfect navigation for me." That's because in the planning stages we've understood and we've planned out the navigation perfectly for our audiences to understand how they use it specifically themselves as a group. So you will target it, us being in marketing. This will be targeted differently for us to how it would be targeted to those who work in product development, for example. So in saying that with the mega menu, the exact same thing can be done with the everywhere panel as well. And the everywhere panel is not just a navigation tool. It can be really whatever you like it to be in terms of what we wanted to show our users. And it could be something like providing personalized content like this. And this is just done in the form of web parts, but we're showing personalized emails, the user tasks, their recent documents. This is important for me as a user because it's probably the first thing I'm going to look at when I log on in the morning and see, okay, what have I got coming up? What tasks have I got to my calendar, my emails, everything like that. But we can also provide almost a sub navigation as well. And this is heavily personalized and targeted as well. And this is something that can also follow you in Teams, like we mentioned before. The everywhere works in Teams as well. So finding where that user works the most, and with this humongous uptake of Teams in this last year, having the core components of your intranet now in Teams reduces that back and forth between SharePoint Teams. If you spend 60, 70% of your day in Teams and the other 30% is going back to SharePoint, we could almost get that to 100% in Teams, minus a few things, administration, everything like that, that's still required to be done in SharePoint. But it's just contributing to that being more efficient, making it easy for your users to adopt. And if it's easy for them to use and your adoption goes up, then that's a successful implementation of any product, no matter what you're undertaking. So, this can range, across the board for any organization. high level stuff, really important for your users, really easy to, to get a hold of, and to know. Users will start to develop this way of working, like we said, which is why we give multiple different streams for those different groups to understand and to use as well.
Fantastic. And I just want to touch on something else here. And this is more from the HR policies and procedures perspective and compliance. But with all the safety and compliance things that we need to make sure we're aligned with, how can we ensure that policies and procedures are really, really easy to find, and that would cut across all departments in terms of navigation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can make it available in the navigation, whether we're making it available through the Everywhere panel, whether we're making it available through the mega menu. Now, it is a core module of our platform or application, policies and procedures. So I will bring it up, if I can bring it up here in the Everywhere panel. Now, behind the scenes, there's an engine running, and essentially what we're doing is, when you deploy the site design for policies and procedures, we are adding certain metadata to the pages themselves. So when you create a page with that site design and that content type, you are creating a policy and procedure. And we're adding a whole heap of metadata around it. And then we're providing new web parts to present that information to end users. This is absolutely content that you want to have front and center for them. You don't want them to have to go and find it. Being something that is wrapped with compliance, we absolutely need our employees to see this information, and broken down in a way that's very easy to understand. So one of the key features to policies and procedures is policies that I must read. Now, if a policy is being created in our product, and you've been tagged in it directly or indirectly, being in a group or personally, then I need to read it, and I need to know that I need to read it. So I need to be alerted, which the product will do behind the scenes, will notify you that you have policy to read. But we also display it in this web part like this. Now, I want to show, because this is something that's really important that we can show through Teams as well. So when we take this Everywhere panel and we take this very important dynamic content, we need to be able to show it in Teams as well. So when I click on the Everywhere panel icon in the top left corner and jump to the same icon, I'm getting that same information. And this is what I just spoke about before, that normally I would need to jump back into SharePoint to retrieve this information or to interact, but now I have it readily available right here in Teams. So if I'm just chatting to someone, if I'm doing some work, I have Teams open for IM, I get that notification. I'm not jumping into SharePoint. I'm actually just switching tabs through the Everywhere panel, and I'm clicking on that policy that I need to read. I'm getting information like title, version, date, everything like that. I have the policy index available as well. So if I need to look up another policy that might be relevant to this one, I can complete a search. I can use that index to find what I need. And it's also available through just a standard SharePoint page as well. So this again speaks to that kind of multi-channel, multifaceted. I'm getting the same information, but in different ways. I can look up the contacts as well. So if I have an issue with a policy that I've been tagged in, I can interact with any of these people here. But when I click on that policy, I'm just launching a standard SharePoint online page with all the LiveTiles Enterprise smarts wrapped around it. Now you'll see immediately down the side here, there's some colors here, some purples. It's letting me know some important information, like the page revision date has passed. So as an end user, I might be concerned with that because someone hasn't actually reviewed the page behind the scenes. But it's also letting me know that I'm required to confirm that I've read this. And that will stay there until I hit that confirm button. And then I have some page details down there as well. Now, all that extra metadata that I spoke about is all under the page details. So this will all be rolled up to page owners, or in this case, policy owners or contributors. But you'll see down the bottom some important information like who the contact person is. So I would suggest that that person owns this policy or they're in control of it. When it's valid to, you'll see that the date of audit is in the past and who needs to read it as well. So that could be individuals or groups, and the relevant for. So relevant for is almost as important as to be read by, but it won't require you to hit confirm. Now, all of this is rolled up behind the scenes into a compliance report. So, comms, HR, legal, whoever it may be, can actually get a snapshot of all of this information and see, who's been tagged against what policy, who's read it, who hasn't, when it was created, revision, all of that information. So that's where we talk about the compliance and two sides of the coin. The first side is we need to create this information and we need to alert everybody or whoever needs to read it that they need to read it and provide a really easy, seamless process to do so. And the other side of that is we need to also be able to report on it. We need to see, how efficient we are with our policies and procedures and how do we get better. And this absolutely allows you to do so. Now, this is again on the end user side, so this is just me having to read it. But what about those users or the people who are controlling this information? So we just mentioned here that the page revision date has passed. So what does it look like for those policy owners? And we can do that through a similar dashboard as well. So you'll see through the Everywhere panel under Service Menu, I have a link called Page Owners. Now, with security, we can actually have that hidden. So only those people in that Page Owners group, Active Directory group, we can hide it for just those people. So you'll see with the account that I'm using as Billy Sykes, he was the contact owner, and he actually has a page to review, which is that anti-discrimination policy. So we've provided this dashboard type experience for the people who are contributors, the owners, everyone like that, so they can see what is going on in front of them as well. And of course, they also need to confirm that they've read that information. So they're probably going to use both experiences here. Now, it's a roll up of information of the pages that I've edited, so I can keep a track of that. The pages I need to review. And then if this is shared across a group of people who are all, in a page owners group, we have all pages for revision as well. So they can collectively see, how the process is running. You don't want to get too far behind. So in a collaborative way, they might all just help each other out in reviewing these pages and sending them on. So very, very vital for compliance. You will always want to make sure that all your employees are up to date with their policies and procedures. And they know what's happening within the business. When changes are made, they'll go back to kind of a fresh start again. So I need to confirm that I've read it again because it's made a change. So this module is very vital for an intranet and very important, you would suspect, for any organization to ensure that all of their employees are up to date with policies, procedures, manuals, anything of such. And I just want to finish off by saying this module is very dynamic and flexible as well. And if you feel like this feature or function set here, notifying users they need to confirm information and being able to consume all of this information in this really nice rolled up dashboard, we can repurpose this module for other types of content engines. It could be a knowledge base hub. It could be something for manuals or safety training and guidelines. So it's not just deploy once and that's it. With the policy and procedure module, you can deploy it many times and it can wear many different hats. The value you're getting out of this is the compliance behind it, the ability to alert users that they need to read it and provide this really nice roll-up content experience.
Great. That's a really comprehensive overview, Jace. And look, it leads me into another topic, which is really important and probably more from the administrator and IT point of view. But the issue of governance is a really, really important one if you're going to keep good hygiene with your intranet, with your intelligent intranet, certainly. So tell us about the governance features of LiveTiles Intranet for Enterprise. And as the name suggests, for enterprise, The larger the organization, the quicker and more dramatically things can get out of hand. But also at the smaller organization level too. Once these things start to snowball and you lose governance, then it's a lot of work to gather up all those loose ends again. So what can you tell me about governance?
Yeah, well, I could tell you a lot about governance, but I don't think we have the time to do so. So I'll keep it very short. But we can do governance a few ways, and you can almost roll governance into personalization as well, because when content in LiveTiles Intranet is personalized, it's often secured as well. So we talked about personalizing and securing the everywhere panel, personalizing and securing the mega menu. So, what you see could be different to what I see, to what the next person sees. And it's all very secure. It's locked down to the right people. They see the right content. They hopefully don't see the wrong content. And then, of course, you've got SharePoint governance within that as well. And, securing content, securing sites, but governance around sites and site creation can always be better. And that's another core feature of the LiveTiles Intranet Enterprise product is our Workspaces module. So how can we ensure that we are not just allowing anyone and everyone to create sites and we don't know what's happening and what content's in there, and before you know it, you could have thousands of sites and you have to do a massive cleansing project, which no one wants to do, and which has become a real issue this year, particularly with the great adoption of Teams and not having a real strategy around governance to do so. And before organizations know it, they got thousands of teams created and no idea who's creating them, why, what content. So at LiveTiles, we can control that with that Workspaces module, as I mentioned. And I'm showing it here through the Everywhere panel again, because it can also be a navigation tool for end users as well. Now I have the add ability, so that stipulates that I have elevated permissions and I am someone who's granted access to create a site. And so we can open that up to everyone, and we can have approvals set between the creation and the request. So we're having some sort of scrutineering process that suggests there's someone between that creation process that identifies if we actually need this created or not. But we can take it a step further and template this kind of stuff as well. So you can't just create anything and everything. You have to create something specifically from a template that has been designed and set in stone, really, by administrators. So you'll see here we have a couple of sites. I have the ability to drop down and view more metadata on that site. So it's something that we like to control with the templates is we need information. We need information from you as someone who wants to create the site to understand what it is, what it's for, who's going to be in this, or what users will be added, what content are you storing, does it have a shelf life, do you need external access, that sort of stuff. And that's the governance around the whole process. And it's not just create a blank site for no reason. So while we only have a few in here right now, this is something that can grow very quickly. And when we do create that site or start the process of creating the site, you'll see here on the right immediately, I have new workspaces, and these are the templates I spoke to. So right now we have configured a team, so a Microsoft team, which we can actually connect to Microsoft Teams. So when you create that site, it will go behind the scenes and create that specific team. You can have a project site, an event site, any template you really want to build for a site, and it can build on a team site, a com site, but the power is you being able to add more constraints around it. More metadata means, more knowledge, more searchability, more information about what we're creating. And so if I want to create a project site, I have a project coming up, I need to put a team together, and I need a working space for us for documents, that sort of stuff, communication, collaboration, away from the noise, away from the main intranet, for example. We would kick it off through this process. And we have some specific metadata here. So title of the project, obviously description, business units. That could be what business units are involved or the business unit that the project is aimed at, privacy levels. So we control if it's public or private. Do we want external access, meaning will we be adding in external users to the directory? And then things like project start date, project end date. Now, this is all extra metadata that we've created on the back end in the admin portal for this particular template. And then lastly, and very importantly, the roles of the users in that site. And so we've created or broken down 3 types of roles, and that's coordinators, managers, and team members. And each of those will have different levels of permissions. So we've probably actually just got the ordering wrong here. But if we do a search, we can have groups or users, again, dependent on what's set in the template. And then each one of those roles could filter down in terms of permissions. So project managers would potentially be owners, site administrators of that site, full control. Next level down, coordinators could be owners or just have a few elevated permissions above a member. And then team members could just have read, some might have some write access, but you're structuring all this in the process. And once this is done, you're in the site, away you go, starting to work on the project and curating that content. Now, as I've showed this available through the Everywhere panel, and as such, this can also be available in Teams as well. So the same experience that I've just had in SharePoint is now exactly the same in Microsoft Teams, just flipped on its side, and I'm running through the same process here as well. So governance, very, very important in this space within Microsoft. We want to ensure that we're not stifling creativity, meaning that we're locking it down and everyone has to go to IT to request a site, but we're just adding some more processes around it, and not for the sake of processes, but for the sake of the health of the environment and ensuring that we don't have a mess within a couple of days. And we still want to give users access to content, but it's about providing the right access to the right users to the right content.
Great stuff, Jace. Well, this is a really good overview of the platform of LiveTiles Intranet for Enterprise. There are still so many more things we could go into, but I do encourage you to get in touch so that we can personalize the demonstration for you. So just by filling out the details on this site, that will ping us and we'll get in touch with you and schedule some time. And just remember, every organization is unique, and our value prop at LiveTiles is very much around fitting our technology around your organization, not you having to conform to our technology. So that's really what differentiates us in the market in that sense. So we would love to have a conversation with you to see what kind of solution you're looking for. What are the major pain points that you're trying to bridge at the moment in your organization, and just to have a great conversation about those things. The most important thing is to bring your questions, and we will listen to those, and we will also show you what we have done with a variety of other customers as well. So sometimes there's common themes, sometimes there's unique themes. But thanks again for listening. Thanks again, Jason, for taking us through that, and we'll speak to you shortly. Thank you again.